Hi, welcome to this channel on magnetic energy, technology, principles, applications. This video is about magnetic energy and the weather. And so let's just connect the dots real quick. So the ionosphere is intimately connected to the weather, and magnetic energy is intimately connected to the ionosphere. You could say that the ionosphere is a concentrated field of magnetic energy. And as most of you probably know, for decades, the various scientists and governments around the world have been well aware of the connection between the ionosphere and the weather, and have tried to manipulate the weather and have done so in some ways quite successfully with projects like HARP and various what they might call ionospheric heaters. So this is like taking like high intensity electrical grids, and maybe they'll be in a certain configuration, and then they may be emitting frequencies at that they're trying to essentially disturb. What they're doing is they're disturbing the ionosphere, or creating like a drain of energy in the ionosphere, an electrical drain. Electricity tends to drain the ionosphere in a negative manner, and then they will create essentially a deficiency in the field, and that will cause the ionosphere then to attempt to rebalance that field. So this is a destructive process. That process, it is beyond stupid that they've been doing it, and hopefully they've realized that there are much better ways to work with the weather. And maybe we'll get into maybe a natural way to work with the weather in a second here. So if you ever have any chance to protest or sign a petition to try to prevent ionospheric disturbance or weather modification, please do so, because that is a terrible practice. It's bad for the planet, it's bad for the ionosphere, and it's just bad for us in general. So magnetic energy and the ionosphere and weather, the primary mechanism of magnetic energy with the weather is the pressure control, the pressure modification. So there's a field, and as I've talked about before, magnetic energy, this is not just simply the energy around magnets. If this is the first video you've seen, please check out other videos. We're talking about an etheric energy that is converted to a usable form of that energy. And so that's done through natural processes. It can be done through technological processes. So magnetic energy, being relatively neutral, is highly prevalent in the ionosphere, and the movement of that energy is typically triggered through the action of the vortex. And it works on an attract principle, how we keep stating that over and over. So when we have an upper circuit roughly outside the ionosphere, and then we have a circuit inside of the planet, and those circuits are always in communication. Those fields are always interacting, and they are seeking to balance the molecular integrity around the planet, the balance of the elements. And from a magnetic point of view, we'll have to do another video on this, but we're talking about an elemental ratio of earth, air, sound, speed, and light. Those are the primary elemental factors that we are concerned with magnetic energy. And so as a draw is created, let's say there's an imbalance, which our planet has a lot of imbalance right now due to various forms of pollution, including like nuclear pollution, and due to energy fields such as electrical fields, electromagnetic fields. So as the ionosphere tries to maintain balance and establish balance throughout around the planet, there can be a lot of action that takes place, including, of course, lightning discharges. But what we're mostly concerned about here is the idea of the vortex. So as the imbalance becomes greater and greater, and some of this can just be for natural reasons throughout cyclical, seasonal, and day and night variations in weather around the planet. The ionosphere will trigger a change that in pressure. That magnetic field will create a pressure draw, and so the pressure may drop or the pressure may go up depending on what the system is trying to rebalance. And if the need is great enough, then the vortex will begin to form, and that will be the magnetic, essentially the foundation, that once that stream is established, that will then contribute to our environmental manifestation of a vortex, such as like a hurricane or a tornado. And they could be even just a minor area that has some bit of rotation but not that intense. It just depends on what it is. So that, combined with the magnetic circuit that essentially powers gravity and powers the rotation of the earth, it gives us a couple different factors that really contribute to all weather on the planet. And that's, we have rotational speed, and then we have atmospheric pressure changes. And so those magnetic processes, those mechanisms, they control the weather. They influence the weather. They will cause anything from just mild cloud cover and rain to vicious storms and hurricanes and whatever else you can imagine. And it's not just the weather that those processes involve, and I should do another video on that, how they can, that buildup of that magnetic attract field can also be part of the circuit that influences, like, even earthquakes and volcanoes. And so this is all part of the same system, but on a daily basis, it's those changes in pressure. That is the magnetic energy mechanism that influences a lot of weather that comes and goes on a day-to-day basis. So let's talk for a second about working with the weather from just a human perspective or a meditation perspective. And if you haven't seen the meditation video, please review that, because it gives a couple principles that are involved in this, maybe in a little more detail. So let's imagine you have at least a group of, let's say, 6 people. And those 6 people are sitting in a circle. And they go through the standard processes for cleaning their energy, like with a vortex of light. They stay very still. They circulate energy through their bodies, like white light through their bodies. They clear out any obvious blockages that they might feel. And so in general, they start to raise their vibration and they start to tune into each other. In this particular circumstance, for this model, for this exercise, the group that is in a circle would join hands. If there's an equal number of men and women, then those would be every other seat. And so we're looking at kind of a balancing of energy, and what we're trying to do is, this is a very heart-centered process, and so this is very important. This process is about tuning in to the earth path, okay? So this is definitely not something you would do to fight against nature. This would be something that you would be doing to work with nature, to enhance a natural process that you and the group understand that is resonant with your heart energy, resonant with your heart space. And that way you're tuning into the planetary vibrations. You are working with the planet energy. There's a consciousness there that you're tapping into, and you're tapping into that higher path of that earth energy and working with the energy in this process. So this is very heart-centered. The attitude and the energy around this type of group meditation is highly neutral with a subtle polarity in it. So like your energy is, you're tuning into the planet, you're very neutral about this, and then you're putting in that very subtle vibration of that intention. And so you're keeping maybe, say, let's say 80% of a neutral attitude where you're open, you're flowing with energy, and then you got that smaller component where you have an intention in there. So you're not trying to force anything to happen. You're allowing energy to flow through you. in this process. So let's say everyone's joined together, they've gotten their energy relatively clear or clean, their vibration is raising up, and one person can lead this process. And essentially what the group is going to do is visualize a large vortex of like white light, or as the group feels guided, that vortex may have a variety of colors of the rainbow. It may have a golden energy. As you tune into the planetary need, the planetary vibe that you're tapping into, let that be the guide for those healing colors that may be present. So this vortex of energy is going to extend into the earth, all the way up into the ionosphere. And for this particular purpose, as energy is being sent up to the ionosphere, the vortex will spin to the right. So let's say if you're in the group and you're looking up, that's going to be, the vortex will be in a clockwise direction. So it'll be running up through the ground all the way into the ionosphere. When the ionosphere is attempting to rebalance the system, it is typically drawing energy from the Earth, and there's polarities involved in this, and this is partly how Tesla understood this process and was so effective even way back then at creating massive strikes of lightning and working with the weather. But just for this purpose and for this meditation process, we're talking about a vortex of energy that is going from the Earth up into the ionosphere, and it is essentially redistributing energy and balancing energy from the Earth up into the ionosphere. So for that particular practice, for this type of meditation, this would be for calming a storm down, calming down, say, a hurricane, or calming down a intense tornadic system, an intense, anything that has intense rotation to it. So those storms are attempting to rebalance and bring energy up to the ionosphere. So this group in meditation, guided by someone, once that vortex is established in that group, then whoever is guiding the meditation can move that vortex to wherever they want on the planet and target a specific area with a hurricane or tornado, as guided by tuning into Earth consciousness, the Mother Earth consciousness. And so you're bringing that energy, and what you're doing is you're using the human being, the human consciousness, our ability to channel energy to help redistribute energy and give the ionosphere the energy that it needs to essentially rebalance and calm that system down as you are guided to do so. Now, the reverse of that is, let's say there's a drought situation, and again, mostly neutral, very, very slight intention, but now the vortex is going the other way. So as you look up from a circle, from a meditation circle, the vortex would be going counterclockwise. Okay, so we're drawing energy down. So, and obviously you want this to be a subtle process, because as a lot of people gather together and do this, you can create quite intense storms. And so you want to just be aware of that process. And if you just want, like a subtle amount of rain, then that's in your intention. That's part of that meditation. And then as that vortex connects with the ionosphere, connects with the Earth, we are now channeling energy down, and we're letting the planet know that this is the place to bring rain, for example. And you can move, once that vortex is established in the group, you can move that to wherever you want on the planet. As people start to go through these stages of enlightenment in the next few years, and as we have magnetic shifts that are happening on the planet, it will become quite common for people to work with Earth energies, and not only by themselves, but in group settings, and to work with those energies and to be partners with the Earth in helping heal the environment and rebalance the environment. And so getting into that practice, it's something that we can do right now. We can start in that practice right now. And as our consciousness increases, as our vibration rises, and our level of awareness expands, we will become better and better as human beings of working with the planet and working with the weather. This isn't about controlling the weather. This is about working together in union, in a communion with the planet, and working to help the planet heal as we are part stewards of this planet, and to take responsibility of that and really tap into that energy. And so with that, I will see you next time.